One thing that I've heard Bart speak effectively to in other venues and speeches that he's given to mostly secular humanist crowds, as he has in past years tried to rally the troops in a way to get secular humanist communities to take root and to basically provide all the frills and bells and whistles that a church would offer, but without God and all that stuff. And Bart, I'd love to hear how that is going and how that movement has taken shape over the last few years. But one of the most powerful talks that you give in those contexts is, hey, we need to know our why. We need to know our why. So we know the how and the what. Hey, we want community. We want to gather in solidarity. We want a better world. We want to be better people. That's the how and the what. But what's our why? And I guess I hear you saying or suggesting that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that our why should be love.
Well, it's maybe even more basic than that, Eric.
Okay.
Like, I think the one thing that every species, every life form, plant, animal, you name it, the one thing that we all have in common from our original common DNA, that first cell that emerged into like life, is a desire to propagate life into the future. That's the most basic thing. If a species doesn't have that, it won't last very long. It's like the Shaker Christian community. Remember the Shakers? Who believed that sex was completely against God's will? And you're like, yeah, why didn't that movement take off? Because they all died and there were none left because they didn't have sex. Like in a sense, if you don't have life must go forward, if you don't have this kind of built-in loyalty to the DNA moving ahead, you're going to die out. And so, in a sense, life is the original value of all living things, the propagation of life. Love is simply our strategy. It's not the only strategy. Lizards have a different strategy. They propagate their DNA forward not by loving their children. They will eat their children. They have a whole different game going on there. But we mammals, and especially the higher mammals, and especially the humans, for us, our strategy isn't to be the biggest, the strongest, the biggest teeth, the fastest. It's to be the most cooperative. It's to care for our young for so long that they can be born with brains that can barely do anything. And we'll just take care of them until the brains catch up.
So I appreciate that, and I can agree with a lot of what you just said, Bart. I guess to me it sounds like when you speak of love, it is either an evolutionary tool that sounds to me like it's something of borderline like an illusion, something we just buy into, like it's an idea that may or may not be rooted in ontological truth, or it's a feeling, and it's a feeling that leads to good outcomes. And I guess the question is, like, what do we do?
I got another word for you.
Okay.
Take away feeling, put in instinct.
All right. That's fine.
It's an instinct.
And that kind of goes back again to the biological evolutionary component of this.
Yeah.
But I guess I would ask, what do we do with the generation of young people who more than any generation before are saying that for us to love the next generation after us is to not have kids, is to not bring kids into this messed up world, or is to make things like abortion and other possible sort of outs from pregnancies possible, so that we don't burden a next generation of kids just by not having them, So
Are you talking about the anti-natalists?
Yeah, and it's a growing movement like this. Statistically, it's really picking up among millennials and Gen Z, and I guess the reason for bringing that up is, I guess without a firm ontological base on which to stand and define love, anybody gets to define love, and somebody's definition of love could look a lot like hate to you, and who are you to say that they're wrong and you're right? I guess that's what I'm going for, is a little more clarity on what you mean when you say love and how you can say that other people should see it the way you do.
Well, I mean, first of all, I spend very little time trying to convince other people to see it the way I do. There are a lot of people that these days I make my living as a therapist. And so I'm maybe more aware than most people of how many people out there are lonely and sad and depressed and anxious. And so I don't often have to convince somebody of anything. There are a lot of people out there that are desperately looking for a path that would be more meaningful to them than the life that they're living, or looking for a connection. And the difficulty that a lot of them have, the younger ones especially, is that they really struggle to climb into the narratives of traditional religions. It's hard for them to believe in Jesus rising from the dead. It's hard for them to believe in a real hell. It's hard for them to believe that the Bible is the inspired word of God. But they still are desperate for a meaningful life. And so I don't really have to convince them, I don't have to talk them out of hate. They're just like, could you show me a way to connect? I want to connect. I want to feel like I'm part of something. I want to feel like my life is meaningful and has value.
Is hate wrong?
Yes. And you say, who says? And I would go hate doesn't work. Hate doesn't cause human beings to flourish.
What if I think it does work for me?
Then, history will prove you wrong. Just like history proved the Shakers wrong. You go are there people that will choose a pathway in life and they'll say, I think this is better. I think this is a better path. And you go yes, there are. And you go how will you know if they're right or wrong? And you go that's the weird thing is it shows up.
So when someone is full of hate, or a movement of people, they're full of hate, in this perspective, I guess our only recourse would be just to wait and let history prove them wrong. We don't have any leg to stand on to. No,
it's interesting you should say that, Eric, because I think about the people at Fred Phelps Church,
right,
who were preaching hate, that the God hates fags people,
right,
and all that stuff, and you think well, Bart, you sound like the kind of guy who's just let history, that movement won't take off. That's not going to have legs. Let it go. And I go yeah, I would do that if I didn't have a gay friend getting off an airplane after the Iraq War and being told that God wishes he was dead or God hates fags. And you go that's the only time I'm going to resist a movement that I think is mistaken or wrong-headed, is when it crosses over to hurting other people.